We are once again riding the roller coaster of history. East Bay Congressman Mark DeSaulnier, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. It's been quite a week in Washington, and it promises to be quite a week coming up. Exactly where do we stand vis-a-vis impeachment?
We have decided that we're going to start an inquiry. There hasn't been a vote for that other than a resolution saying that we should get this information from the Director of National Intelligence and from the Inspector General.
Okay, so most of us have seen what it is we're talking about, the conversation between the President and the President of the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. So one of the first questions is that what is going to be the target of the impeachment, or are we going to bring in everything from Donald Trump's business dealings to his tax returns to the Mueller report to obstruction? Is that going to be the focus? No.
No, the focus is this phone conversation and finding out who was part of it and finding out who the people who were there, investigating and substantiating what he did. If what he did and what he admitted to is true, then that's a crime.
Question, is it a crime or is it an impeachable offense?
It's both.
It's both.
So it's a crime for me or anyone running for federal office to ask a foreign national for a campaign contribution or something of value. Clearly, this was something of value.
In your opinion?
This is the process. So in my opinion, as part of the investigatory process, so we're in the investigatory process if we decide to impeach.
Let me just get this straight. We're not talking about treason. We're not talking about giving away secrets. We're not talking about... We're talking about a campaign violation?
That would be the first thing. You could talk about all those things. That's where the investigation, that's what it's for, is to find out, and the public will see it.
Why aren't we pursuing the other avenues at the same time?
Because this is what's before us, and I think...
Is that a decision that the Speaker has made? To sort of trim things down to keep it focused for the American public?
She has made it, but she's made it on behalf of the caucus, having been in these discussions.
So this is a strategic decision?
It's what is in front of us right now, and for all of us, it's compelling, it's easy to understand. He called and asked for a favor from a foreign president.
Okay, so if you were selling it to a jury, this would be the easiest one to sell. The others are too complex, is that it?
Well, and
because the calls for impeachment have been going on for over a year now. And everything that we have seen, and you've been on this show repeatedly saying, that's impeachable, that act is impeachable. But all those are going to go by the wayside, and this is going to be the one.
For this instance, yes.
Okay, so it's not a criminal decision. This is a political decision which one to go with.
In the impeachment process, as written by the founders, was both criminal and political. And that's part of the challenge we have.
The American public out there, we've seen the hearings and such, and I've got to tell you, there's a good group out there that feels that, based on the statements that Democrats have made and Republicans have made, he's either guilty or innocent before the trial even starts. It's like the jury is sitting there saying, we've already made up our minds, let's get the trial out of the way.
Well, I think people have to understand what the Constitution says about impeachment and removal of a president in particular. We are in the investigatory phase. We decide whether we want to indict him, which would be a vote on the floor of the House of Representatives, and then it goes to the Senate for a trial.
When do you see that vote happening in the House?
Before the end of the year.
And when do you see it going to the Senate for trial?
As soon as we're done. And then they are required to have a trial.
Is there a time when they must have the trial by?
No.
So in other words, the Republicans could sit on it?
They could, but then I would hope that the American people, including Republicans and Trump supporters, would want them to go through in public, as they're constitutionally required, and find out the truth. And you know, Phil, the ultimate determinant of this will be the American public. If the American public thinks this is wrong, Republicans and Democrats, then he will be removed from office.
All right. I want to thank you for that. Can you stick around? We'd like to go a little more in depth in this. Once again, Congress is talking about impeachment, and this time it looks like it's actually going forward. Joining us is Democratic Congressman Mark DeSaulnier. This is the third time we've had impeachment on the horizon in your time, in your generation. It's not what it used to be, is it?
No, the culture in this country has changed dramatically since we went through Watergate in particular.
We went through Watergate, and that was divisive, and Richard Nixon decided to bow out rather than face impeachment. We went to Bill Clinton, and it was over, did he have sex in the Oval Office with that woman? And we had a split, and the Democrats, we went through the impeachment process, and he was not turned out of office. Now we have a third one. This is a strange one. There was a violation there. I mean, that's just it. It's on the face, right?
He's admitted to it.
He's admitted to it. As a matter of fact, he put it out there. Take a look at it.
Right.
But we also have the star of a reality show as president and the star of an internet comedy show as the president of the Ukraine, who have a conversation about digging up dirt on arrival of the president's Joe Biden that is listened to by at least a dozen other people taking notes. He doesn't do anything in the background. He doesn't do anything behind closed doors. He does it right out in front. And then when he's called on it, he says, here's the transcript. Go jump off a bridge.
Well, we don't know what he does behind closed doors. I mean, that's part of the investigation, is was there more here? But you're right, this is all out in the open. If this happened in the 70s, my belief is that he would have already resigned.
But this is not Richard Nixon, and this is not
the 70s.
The 70s. This is America today. And the question is because an impeachment by Nancy Pelosi leading it is both a criminal act and it's a political act, and it's a public relations act, because you got to, ultimately, the jury's the American people.
Yeah, that's the way it works in a democracy. So if Republicans members start to see their constituents say, we've got a problem with this, in the Senate in particular, then there'll be a change.
Okay, but at the same time, America's looking at the process. And so the Congress, you guys are going to be on trial as well. And some people don't, some of your crew doesn't come across all that well on television. As a matter of fact, some of them seem to be more interested in being on television than anything else.
Well, that's the world we live in now, Phil, is that in our lifetimes that's changed, is that television and speaking to your constituents and the public as a politician was just something you did to explain yourself. Now it seems like more and more, where I work, that's the reason for being there, is to be on TV rather than doing the work.
So that cannot help the process.
No, it can't, but it's the process we've inherited. So for me, you just have to have faith that the American voters, Republican and Democrats, that they will listen, even though the way they get information has changed so much since the 70s.
Then there's also a question of whether in the public's mind this latest rises to a level, or whether it's just part of the ongoing noise that we've been hearing for 2 years in play.
And for me, it's obvious. I mean, I've been for starting this process for quite a while. I think if you read the Mueller report, it's very clear that the Russians helped this president get elected. I don't want the Russians to decide who's in office in this country or to help. Here he is asking another country to help him get elected. So for me, it's obvious, but you're right. The times have changed, and it's up to the American people and to us to decide whether they want a democracy and whether this is right or not.
Have the Democrats, do they suffer from the Chicken Little syndrome? Have they been running around saying the sky's falling for so long that now when something actually happens, people go, excuse me, but I've got to go to work right now. I've got to pick up my kids, and my taxes are killing me?
Yes, in both sides, because we live in a 24/7 news cycle with social media, and those businesses make money by getting us all upset. And I hope the American public is thirsty for just objective, but it can be with different perspectives, look at things.
Is anything else going to get done while we go through this?
Yes.
Will we ever get guns control? Will we ever get a health care reform? Will we ever get an infrastructure bill, or is it all going to be consumed by this?
I think most of it's going to be consumed by this. We're not going to get guns. The president yesterday had the head of the NRA into the Oval Office to ask him for political help. So we're not going to get a compromise when one side says no, no, no. And we've got to correct this. If Congress is going to work, we can have our opinions, we can fight about them, but we've got to respect one another, and we have to have votes and work product and move on. And that's why the American public's so disgusted with Congress, is we don't do that.
Well, I got to say that after this summer, with all the investigations, even in California, Congress's polling numbers dropped to below Donald Trump's, and that's saying something. But we will see going forward, because I don't think you have a choice this time.
No, we don't have a choice. We have to.
Congressman Mark DeSaulnier.